In today's lesson, we're going to do a review of integer math, and we're going to start with adding and subtracting integers. So the first thing I want to do is I kind of want to show you an example that you guys might not have really thought about before. So subtracting integers and adding integers are kind of related, and it's in the way that we can understand that subtraction can be shown as adding negatives. So for instance, 7 minus 4 is also the same thing as saying 7 plus -4. So we're just adding. I'm going to write that down for you. Subtraction can be shown as adding negatives. That's shorthand for negative. Because when you write this out, 7 minus 4 is still 3. And 7 plus -4 is still 3. Because when we put this on a number line, and I'm starting at 7, and I'm being told, okay, go down by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I need to add -4. So I'm still starting at 7, but I still have to go down -4. So this is adding one negative at a time, or subtracting one each time. So that's a really good way to kind of remember it, to kind of see it. I'm going to show you a diagram as well. If this doesn't make sense to you, don't worry. You can just use a number line. So let's think. Example. And this is using counters. So you can just sit back and watch this one. You don't have to write it down if it doesn't make sense to you. Okay? So this is 5 minus -3. So when we subtract negatives, we're just taking away things, right? Like when we're subtracting, it's just taking away. If I look at this, I don't have anything really to take away. I can't take away 3 negatives, right? Because I have no negatives in this equation. So if I wrote this out in counters, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have no negatives to speak of, so I have to introduce some negatives. Oh, that's way too close to the 3. I don't want that there. Let's move this here. Okay. So this is all 5. That represents 5 because this technically equals 0. That's a bad spot to put that. Let's put it up here. And this equals 5. So then if I want to take away 3 bad things, I'm going to take away these 3. So this really just says, what is 5 plus 3? Well, it's 8. Because this, once we get rid of this takeaway, this equals 3. Another way to think of that I'm going to say using multiplication. If this is 5 minus -3, as we know that there's technically a little 1 right here, we can take this and distribute it in. So this equation is now 5 plus 3, which equals 8. Let's say this next one, I have a nice little rule. You can change the order. But not the sign. So for instance, -7 plus 2 is really the same thing as saying 2 minus 7. So one of these might be easier for you to understand, whichever one is, that's the way you really should be writing it. As long as you keep it the same, you're good to go. Because, like, this -7 and this -7 need to have that little negative sign with it because it belongs to them. There's technically a little plus sign here too. So our next example is about multiplying and dividing. Oh no, my eraser's in the worst part of the pen. There we go. Okay, so rule. If I have a positive times a positive, it equals a positive. If I have a positive times a negative, I get a negative. And if I have a negative times a negative, I'll get a positive. This always works. So if we did a couple examples, like if we had 5 times -4, this would be -20. -5 times -6, which is 30. And if I did, I don't know, like, how should I, 4 divided by -2, this gives me -2, so on and such. You just really need to follow this little diagram, and you'll have a good time when it comes to multiplication and division.